The 2026 NFL schedule has been released for every single team now.
San Francisco will be the first team ever to play multiple international games in non-consecutive weeks.
We're going to look at and discuss which teams were screwed over most by their schedules and which ones benefit more. Screwed over, San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are going to have a grueling 2026 season ahead of them, as they're going to travel the most miles to their games with 38,105, which includes traveling to Melbourne, Australia for a divisional matchup against the Los Angeles Rams and a Week 11 matchup in Mexico City against the Minnesota Vikings. Kyle Shanahan and the other 49ers players have expressed frustration over the logistical nightmare the team will embark on during the regular season. After the 49ers return from Mexico City, their schedule only gets tougher, as they have to square off against the Seattle Seahawks at home in Week 12, the New York Giants on the road in Week 13, the Rams back home in Week 14, the Los Angeles Chargers on Thursday Night Football in Week 15, the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 16, the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 17, and then wrap up the regular season with a divisional matchup against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 18. Yeah, the 49ers likely have easy wins against the Dolphins and Cardinals in Weeks 2 and 3 respectively, but then they have 3 tough matchups against the Broncos at home in Week 4, the Seahawks on the road in Week 5, and the Commanders back home on Monday Night Football in Week 6. On top of that, the 49ers requested back-to-back road games to rest and adjust to the Eastern time zone, but the NFL denied that request, forcing the team to tough it out. All we can say is, best of luck 49ers. Your schedule looks more like an adrenaline-rushed road trip with more stops than a subway train. Benefited New York Jets. The Jets opened the 2026 season with a Week 1 matchup against the Tennessee Titans on the road, and have to square off against most of the NFC North in Weeks 2 to 4. After dealing with the Green Bay Packers, Chicago Bears, and Detroit Lions, the Jets have some winnable games against the Cleveland Browns in Week 5, the Miami Dolphins in Week 7, and the Las Vegas Raiders in Week 8. Oh, and those 3 games are all at home. 15 of the Jets games have kickoff times at 1 p.m., which allows them to stick to their standard routine for the regular season. The Jets have a Week 13 bye week, which is their latest for a bye week since 1990, but it should help the team out if they're in a position for a chance to make the playoffs, even though it would have been better to just have the bye week a couple of weeks earlier. There are some pretty easy games to win if Glenn and the Jets can take advantage of them, which could draw some more excitement to a franchise that really hasn't made the playoffs since the 2010 season. Screwed over, Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers have a brutal schedule ahead of them, as their opponents will be well rested with a -22 rest differential, which is a league worst. The Bolts have a Week 7 bye week, which is pretty early in the league. The Chargers do have easy games against the Cardinals and Las Vegas Raiders to open up the 2026 season, but they got 4 weeks of intense games against the Buffalo Bills on the road in Week 3, a Week 4 matchup against the Seattle Seahawks on the road, and back-to-back divisional matchups against the Denver Broncos and Kansas City Chiefs in Week 5 and 6 respectively. After the Chargers bye week, they have some more intense games against the Los Angeles Rams in Week 8, the Houston Texans in Week 9, and the Baltimore Ravens on the road in Week 10. The Chargers have the 9th toughest schedule heading into the 2026 season, and they cannot afford to have any letdowns heading into the season. However, they do have some very winnable games scattered throughout that schedule, which they're really going to have to take advantage of if they want to have a successful year. Benefited Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have a very favorable schedule heading into the 2026 regular season, as they have the 4th easiest schedule. The Colts won't be doing a lot of traveling to games outside of their Week 4 matchup against the Washington Commanders in London, as they travel 15,868 miles in 2026. The Colts will square off against 5 teams that made the playoffs in the 2025 season. The Houston Texans in Week 3 at home, the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road in Week 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road in Week 8, the Texans on the road in Week 11, and the Philadelphia Eagles on the road in Week 14. The Colts also square off against the Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs to open the season. But honestly, they play a lot of teams that didn't reach the playoffs. While there are some bumpy stretches, they definitely have enough easy matchups that they should cruise to the postseason fairly easily. Screwed over, Jacksonville Jaguars. Similar to the San Francisco 49ers, the Jaguars also have a rough travel layout for their schedule, as they play 7 to 10 games on the road from Week 9 to 18 and travel over 23,000 miles during the season. The Jaguars will square off against 6 teams that made the playoffs in the 2025 season, which include the Houston Texans twice, the Denver Broncos on the road in Week 2, the New England Patriots at home in Week 3, the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 5 in London, the Chicago Bears on the road in Week 13, and the Pittsburgh Steelers at home in Week 14. Not to mention, the team has a brutal slate of games after their Week 7 bye week, as they have to square off against their divisional rivals, the Indianapolis Colts, in Week 8 and the Baltimore Ravens in Week 9 on the road. The Jaguars also have a net negative 3-day rest disadvantage at 22 in the league, meaning they're going to have a grueling time squaring off against opponents. Their opposition will likely be more prepared to handle Liam Cohen's offensive schemes heading into the regular season. So we're just gonna have to wait and see how the Jaguars do when the dust is finally settling by the end of the season. Benefited Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, well, they got a pretty nice 2026 schedule. Starting off with the Week 1 Monday Night Football showdown against the Denver Broncos at home, serving as a nice window for guys to recover from injuries before they open the season in full. The Chiefs are also not traveling internationally this time around, so that should prevent jet lag and long-distance traveling, which really causes some early season stumbles. The Chiefs also have back-to-back home games to open the season, hosting the Broncos in Week 1 and then playing the Indianapolis Colts in Week 2 before hitting the road. However, the Chiefs do have a difficult slate of games, as they'll have to square off against the Broncos twice, the Los Angeles Chargers at home in Week 6, the Seattle Seahawks on the road in Week 7, the Buffalo Bills on the road in Week 12, the Los Angeles Rams on the road in Week 13, the New England Patriots at home at Week 15, and the San Francisco 49ers at home in Week 16. Patrick Mahomes and the rest of the Chiefs roster should be much healthier and far more competitive than they were in 2025. So they should have the strength to return to the playoffs by the conclusion of the season, and their relatively unforgiving schedule paired with Mahomes and defensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy should lead to some much better success this time in 2026. Screwed over Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have a very rough 2026 schedule ahead of them as they open the 2026 season against some serious playoff contenders. The Los Angeles Chargers on the road in Week 1, the Seattle Seahawks at home in Week 2, and the San Francisco 49ers on the road in Week 3. That stretch of games won't be easy, as all three of those teams made the playoffs in 2025 and have stronger rosters than the Cardinals do. The Cardinals have another rough stretch from Week 6 until their bye week in Week 14, which includes games against the Denver Broncos on the road in Week 7, squaring off against the Los Angeles Rams twice, a date with the Seattle Seahawks on the road in Week 9, a showdown against the Kansas City Chiefs on the road in Week 10, and a Week 13 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles at home. There is almost no breathing room for the Cardinals until their Week 14 bye week, as they're set to face off against their divisional opponents throughout a large stretch of games. To make matters even worse, the NFC West has become far more competitive in 2025. It's not going to be fun watching the Cardinals lose a majority of their games in the regular season. Benefited Green Bay Packers. The 2026 Packers have a nice back half home stretch, a light travel schedule, and some easy early season matchups, which include taking on the Minnesota Vikings and New York Jets on the road in Weeks 1 and 2 before returning home to square off against the Atlanta Falcons in Week 3. As mentioned earlier, the Packers won't be doing some serious traveling this coming season, as they're going to travel only, 12,673 miles during the season, which definitely helps give the team little to no fatigue squaring off against opponents. Things might get challenging against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 4 on the road, but the Packers have 4 out of 6 games at home before their Week 11 bye. The Packers square off against the Miami Dolphins in Week 15 and the Houston Texans in Week 17, both games being at home, and, both those teams are warm weather teams that aren't used to the snow. Head coach Matt LaFleur may have some pressure on his job, but the Packers should roll through a good number of their opponents with ease, or in at least some close competitive victories. The Packers' last 2 games of the season are also at home, which gives them a nice advantage if they're competing for a spot in the playoffs. It should be very interesting to see how the Packers make it through their schedule in the 2026 season. Screwed over Chicago Bears. Fresh off an impressive 2025 season, the Bears enter the 2026 season with a rough schedule ahead of them. The first 5 weeks of the season have the Bears squaring off against 3 teams that reached the playoffs. The Carolina Panthers on the road in Week 1, the Philadelphia Eagles at home in Week 3, and the Green Bay Packers on the road in Week 5. Bears might earn a win over the Panthers, but the Eagles and Packers are going to give them a much more intense challenge. The Bears will play games on Thanksgiving when they play the Detroit Lions on the road in Week 12, and on Christmas when they host the Packers. The last 3 games of the season for the Bears are all against division rivals. The Packers in Week 16 on Christmas, as mentioned earlier, the Lions in Week 17 at home, and the Minnesota Vikings on the road in Week 18. Things may get messy for the Bears, but head coach Ben Johnson should come up with some great offensive schemes for the upcoming regular season. Benefited Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals emerged as one of the winners of the schedule release for the upcoming season, as they have the 3rd easiest schedule in the league. The Bengals' opponents combined for a 0.450 winning percentage from last season and play against 3 teams that finished the 2025 season with a record below 500. Those teams include the Houston Texans in Week 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers twice, and the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 4. Joe Burrow should have an incredible bounce-back season, as he should be healthier, and the Bengals defense got a nice upgrade during the regular season. On top of all that, the Bengals also have a light travel schedule during the season, outside of going to Madrid in Week 9. It should be a very exciting season for the Bengals as they look to possibly return to the playoffs for the first time since 2022. But hey, what team do you think has the easiest schedule for 2026? Which ones do you think have the toughest? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.